So I already made a video talking about Daniel Dubois versus Fabio Wardley. That's up on NPC Fights. This video is going to go on the main channel, and I might also put it on NPC Fights. But if you guys want to watch my thoughts on Daniel Dubois versus Fabio Wardley, that fight's going to happen in May in London. Go check out the Fights channel. That video will be in the description. This video, I'm going to talk about Tyson Fury versus Arslanbek Makhmudov, which is a very interesting fight to me. Although I think both of these fights, these heavyweight fights coming up, both the Wilder fight, both the Fury fight, I think they both have a little potential to get boring. I think it's a couple of fights between guys who, obviously, every fighter involved in this is on the other side of 30, but guys who all have, either on the other side of 30 or have questionable gas tanks. Always a thing in heavyweight boxing, guys getting heavy-handed, getting slow as the fight winds down. And I think that's a big part of why Fury picked Makhmudov for this fight. He sees himself as having a better gas tank than Makhmudov. I think he also wants to maybe check his gas tank a little bit, Fury. He wants to sort of see if he still has the superb 12-round gas tank that he used to. And I think Makhmudov is somebody that he thinks he can essentially run out of the building in the last 7 rounds of the fight. And it's not like it's not a dangerous fight for Fury, though. Makhmudov has great hands. He's very powerful. He's very direct, like a lot of Soviet-style fighters. I'm just curious if Makhmudov is going to sort of try to play this fight for 12 rounds and maybe be a little bit less aggressive, maybe be a little bit wary of using his energy in the first half of the fight so that he can stand in there with Fury in the late rounds of the fight, because I don't really know if there is an obvious game plan for Makhmudov in this fight, other than just go right for the jugular, other than just try to press at the beginning. I mean, that's what makes Makhmudov a great fighter. That's at least what he does in the fights that he dominates. And from a perspective, you could just see Makhmudov come into this fight as thinking, okay, Fury's old, Fury's washed, hasn't fought in a year, said he was retired. And, you know, he's going to try to take advantage of an older Fury and get an early KO and just rush him the way that he usually does to, you know, dominate fights. I think we have to be smarter than that and recognize that Fury is still Tyson Fury. That, you know, he has been defeated. He has lost at this point, but it was only to Usyk. It was only to somebody who's a bit of a matchup nightmare for him. Only to somebody who's already a historic fighter and a southpaw, somebody with an insane speed advantage, and also, you know, a different version and a more dangerous version of the Soviet style than the one that Makhmudov provides. I do worry a bit that Fury doesn't see any danger at all from Makhmudov. But I think that Fury is right, that the gas tank is going to make a really, really big difference in this fight, and is really ultimately the tool, along with Fury's jab, that's going to make it really hard for Makhmudov to survive this 12-round distance. It'll be interesting to see if Fury can find a knockout shot. I would tend to think that would be off of a counter punch from Fury at this point, at least stylistically against Makhmudov. That would probably be from a counter punch. I think it's a lot more likely that he just cruises to a decision in this fight. I think that pretty much, given what we know about Fury's gas tank and the fact that, I'm sorry, yes, he is an older fighter, but Fury isn't the kind of fighter whose gas tank is going to fade in the later part of his 30s. Fury loves doing road work. He loves running. He's one of the fighters I've never had to worry about his gas tank fading, because he actually loves doing that part of the work. You can tell. He just is a runner. I think he considers himself to be a runner, separately from a boxer, in the same way that Sugar Ray Leonard used to say, like, he's a runner first and then a boxer. I'm not sure if Fury is. Fury's definitely a boxer first and then a runner. But he's a runner too. He loves to run. So I'm not worried about his stamina going away. And I think you can probably just bank the last, honestly, even 7 rounds of this fight for Fury, at least the last 5 rounds of this fight. You can probably just bank them for Fury before the fight even starts. But it always is that way with older fighters. It's always that way with older legends, even like Tyson Fury. I would consider Tyson Fury to be a heavyweight legend at this point. I mean, depends on how you use the word legend, but in my mind, he'll always be up there, and, you know, in a certain echelon of heavyweight. And when people come around and say, oh, you know, who's an underrated heavyweight, you know, Tyson Fury is not mentioned. There are going to be people for a very, very long time who put Tyson Fury in that discussion. So it's always interesting to see if a fighter at that level of greatness, when they're fading, when they're on their way out, just how quickly that fade comes. And maybe Arslanbek Makhmudov could be the guy to provide that fade. It would definitely throw a wrench into the heavyweight division, and I think it's an underratedly good fight for Makhmudov also. It's a good fight for Fury too, because of the obvious style matchup. But I think it could be a good pick for Makhmudov as well. It's not necessarily the biggest risk, and it's a fight that I'm a little surprised to see him get, when, you know, it's never surprising to see fighters from Eastern Europe, fighters who are dangerous, like Makhmudov is, get dodged or get avoided at the top level of the heavyweight division. So now on to Chisora versus Wilder. And I did talk about this fight before. I'm obviously picking Chisora, but I've thought about it, and I do think there is a way into this for Wilder. I just worry about if that's what's actually going to come to fruition. I think that Wilder needs to focus on his boxing. He needs to focus on his fundamentals. He needs to focus on his jab. He needs to focus on his footwork. He needs to focus on his ring control. He needs to focus especially on his defense, on his guard. He needs to make sure that he doesn't get knocked out in this fight. He's been knocked out before now, several times. He's been knocked out before now a couple times. Deontay Wilder needs to look at the Terrell Herndon fight and accept that the Terrell Herndon fight was the last fight. I'm from New York. There's a saying we have in New York. What have you done for me lately? Right? And Deontay Wilder, he seems to still be particularly caught up on this Tyson Fury fight from 8 years ago that he lost, and he isn't really focused on what's happened lately. And lately was the Terrell Herndon fight. And like I talked about in the last video, the Terrell Herndon fight showed that, at least what evidence we have, Deontay Wilder doesn't seem to have the power anymore. And if that's the case, he can get a nice win here over Derek Chisora. But only if he uses his distance, only if he uses his ability to clinch, and only if he uses his power to rack up rounds. And if he shows a new kind of ring intelligence and a new kind of IQ that I don't know that we've seen from Deontay Wilder before, because most of Deontay Wilder's career has been him knocking people out, has been him going for the jugular, has been him throwing punches right down people's throats. And if he doesn't have that power and that violence anymore, I'm sorry, Derek Chisora does still have a little power and a little violence. Deontay Wilder couldn't actually put away Terrell Herndon just recently. So, I always worry about this with fighters that have money, with fighters that have had success, with fighters that have won in the past, fighters that were undefeated, fighters that were celebrities like Deontay Wilder was. We've seen it so many times. Having yes men in your camp, right? It's a little more okay for a fighter like a Mayweather to have yes men in your camp. For a fighter like Shakur Stevenson to have yes men in your camp, because what will the yes men in the camp of a Floyd Mayweather, of a Shakur Stevenson, what will they be talking up, right? They're going to be talking up his defense. They're going to be talking up his quick hands. They're going to be talking up his fundamentals. They're not going to be talking up his power, because that's not what you would talk up with those fighters. In Deontay Wilder's camp, they're going to be talking up his power, and he doesn't have that anymore. And that's a very dangerous thing. If there's people in his camp going, you're going to sleep this guy, you're going to one-punch this guy, Deontay Wilder is inherently in a lot of trouble, right? I do think Derek Chisora is an older fighter. I do think Derek Chisora lacks fundamentals, and I do think that Deontay Wilder has access to training camp and to coaches that can help him with his fundamentals in that way, and that he is actually a much better fundamental boxer than people give him credit for, and that he never would have gotten as far as he did if he didn't have those fundamentals. Well, he's going to have to lean on them now if he wants to have a career at an older age. Or he could really, really focus on his stamina, and I could definitely see anybody with the power like his, if they up their ring IQ, if they work on their ring generalship, if they work on their boxing craft, having a sort of George Foreman-like career. It's just that Wilder is going to have to discover that power again. And discovering that power again, which is a whole different can of worms, it also doesn't start with somebody in your camp telling you that you have it when you don't. But regardless of that, I expect him to be swinging for the fences. I expect to see a Deontay Wilder who is trying to knock out Derek Chisora from moment one. And I expect to see a fight where if the big shot doesn't happen early on, you might see a little bit of a slower and more boring conclusion. Which isn't necessarily true of the Fury Makhmudov fight, because of how good Fury's gas tank is, and because Fury does really have that natural boxing. And, I wouldn't even say fundamentals. Fury just has more boxing flair than Wilder does. He's more able to cycle, more able to move, more comfortable off the jab than Wilder is. So I think to a certain extent he'll look better. So I think he'll definitely look better later in a fight than Wilder will at this point in his career, and you're going to see that. But yeah, that's my thoughts on both these fights. I think both these fights are going to have action early. They could slow down late. If I'm going to pick both of them, to be honest, I'm going to pick Chisora against Wilder. I wish I could pick Wilder, to be honest with you. I think Wilder has a better chance than I think a lot of his haters would give him. I think he's a better boxer than I think a lot of his haters think he is. But yeah, I still can't pick him. And then for Fury versus Makhmudov, I think it's kind of obviously a Fury fight, to be real with you. It would be hard for me not to pick Fury. I think he just has a level of boxing above Makhmudov anyway, regardless of anything else. So yeah, like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more boxing and combat sports content. Subscribe here on the main channel. Subscribe over at NPC Fights. The support means all the world to me. Stay tuned, and I will keep coming with the boxing and combat sports content. Throw a like, throw a sub. Peace out.